It's decided, Mom announced at the dinner table, her voice ringing like a verdict. Your sister gets your luxury SUV. She has kids, you don't. Everyone nodded as if that made perfect sense. My name was Claire Monroe. I'm 29, and if you think this was about generosity, stay tuned. I sat there, my fork frozen midair, as my sister Lydia smiled sweetly, already fishing her keys from her purse like it was settled. Dad avoided eye contact. Uncle Ron cleared his throat, sensing the storm brewing. Mom kept talking, indulging in her favorite sport. You make good money, Claire. You'll buy another one. Lydia needs it more. The air thickened with entitlement. I smiled, slow, controlled, terrifyingly calm. Funny you should mention kids, I said, reaching into my bag. Here's what she did with her last car. Lydia froze. I dropped a manila folder onto the table. Photos spilled out, repair bills, police reports, insurance claims. She had crashed her husband's vehicle during a weekend getaway that wasn't exactly marital. Uncle Ron gasped. That's not Lydia, is it? Lydia's face went white. Where did you get those? I replied, public record. You might want to check the dates and the passenger name. Dad finally looked up. Claire! No. Let's finish dinner, I said, my voice even, since everyone's voting on who deserves what. The silence that followed was suffocating, the kind that exposes everything polite words try to hide. Lydia stammered. You're just jealous. Of what? I asked softly. Your debt? Your drama? Or your next bad decision? Mom opened her mouth, but no sound came out. For the first time in years, the table was quiet. And I wasn't done yet. The silence after I dropped that folder could have swallowed the whole house. Lydia's hand trembled as she shoved the papers back into the envelope, her voice breaking. You had no right to dig into my personal life. I leaned back in my chair. I didn't dig. The insurance company emailed me last year. Guess whose name was still on the co-signed loan for your last car? Dad snapped toward her. You told me you'd paid that off. Her lip quivered. I meant to. Mom finally found her voice brittle but defensive. Claire, you didn't need to embarrass your sister in front of everyone. We're family. Exactly. And family should stop mistaking my silence for weakness. Uncle Ron cleared his throat again, clearly wishing he'd skipped this dinner. Lydia stood, her chair scraping back hard. You think you're better than everyone just because you make more money? I smiled faintly. No, I just learned how to clean up the messes you all pretend don't exist. Mom slapped the table. Enough. We are not discussing this here. I stood too, gathering the folder. Oh, we are. Because every time you decide what's fair, it's me who pays for it. Dad rubbed his temples. Claire, please. No, Dad. You always say please after they take something from me. Lydia muttered, you dramatic. But her voice was smaller now. I met her eyes. Maybe, but at least I'm honest. I slung my bag over my shoulder, calm as ever. You can keep deciding who deserves what. Just remember, every choice has a receipt. And then I left them there, still frozen around that table, staring at the folder that had just rewritten the entire family script. The next morning, the family group chat exploded. Mom, you owe your sister an apology. You humiliated her. Lydia, you're toxic, Claire. Stay out of my life. Dad, let's talk this through calmly. I muted the chat and sipped my coffee. For once, I felt nothing. Not anger, not guilt. Just the calm that comes when truth does the talking for you. By noon, Uncle Ron called. Claire, I'm not taking sides, but your mother's in a frenzy. She said you blindsided everyone. I laughed softly. Uncle Ron, she's been blindsiding me for 29 years. He sighed. They're family. Exactly. And family should stop mistaking my silence for weakness. That evening, my doorbell rang. When I opened it, Lydia was standing there, sunglasses on, fury in every breath. You think you're clever, huh? You made me look bad. I crossed my arms. You made yourself look bad. I just held up the mirror. She stepped forward, voice low. You'll regret this. I raised a brow. Like you regretted the last car or the one before that? Her jaw tightened. Mom says you're changing, that money's made you cold. I smiled. No, Lydia. Truth made me free. She glared one last time and stormed off. The sound of her tires screeching down the street was the most fitting soundtrack imaginable. Later that night, I opened my laptop and transferred the SUV's ownership out of my name permanently. It had been in both our names since the family decision. Not anymore. The next morning, Lydia texted in all caps, "The dealership says the car is not mine." I replied simply, "Funny, that's exactly what I told Mom. Some lessons don't need yelling, just paperwork." By the weekend, word had spread through the entire family tree. Cousins, aunts, even grandma. Everyone suddenly had an opinion about my behavior. Apparently, I was vindictive, heartless, and turning against family. It's strange how truth sounds cruel to those built on lies. I ignored their chatter and spent the morning cleaning out my office at home. Stacked between tax folders and property papers was something I hadn't looked at in years. Dad's old notebook when I helped him organize family finances. I flipped through the pages and froze. There it was, clear as sunlight. Lydia's name listed under loan default cosigner, dated 2 years before the car accident. They had all kept it quiet. Dad had paid off the balance himself, nearly $28,000, and he had never told me. That's when it clicked. This wasn't about the SUV. It never had been. It was about control, keeping me useful, guilty, and quiet. I've spent the evening preparing something new, a digital file labeled Transparency. It contained every record, Lydia's unpaid loans, Mom's unauthorized transfers from the joint fund Dad once created from my college, and a neat summary of how my so-called family built their comfort on my silence. At dinner the next day, they invited me again, as if nothing had happened. Mom smiled too sweetly. "Claire, let's not dwell on the past, all right?" I returned the smile. Of course not. In fact, I thought we could move forward with full honesty. Then I handed Dad a USB drive. "Everything's on there. Receipts, transfers, reports. Don't worry, it's already backed up." Mom's smile faltered. Lydia's face drained of color. The silence that followed felt like justice wrapped in grace, and I hadn't even started the real reveal yet. The air in that dining room turned heavier than the chandelier above it. Dad stared at the USB drive in his hand like it was radioactive. "What's on this, Claire?" Just everything you all said didn't exist. Proof." Mom's fork clinked against her plate. "You're making a scene again, always so dramatic." I smiled, unbothered. "No drama, just data." Lydia scoffed, trying to recover her usual arrogance. "You think this makes you powerful? You're just bitter because no one picks you for anything." I leaned forward. "Oh, I got picked by the truth." Dad's eyes darted toward Mom. "Is any of this true?" She hesitated just long enough to tell him everything he needed to know. "I moved some money temporarily. It was for Lydia's tuition. I plan to replace it." Dad's voice cracked. "That was Claire's college fund, Marie. And she's doing fine, isn't she? She doesn't even need it now." That sentence, that casual cruelty, broke something quiet inside me. I stood, calm as a glacier. "You're right, Mom. I don't need it. But maybe the bank will." Her head snapped up. "What do you mean?" "I mean," I said, pulling my phone from my pocket, "the report's already been sent to the fraud department with your name, dates, and amounts." Lydia's jaw dropped. "You wouldn't—" "I would," I interrupted, my voice steady. "You wanted my car. You took my money. You lied to my face. Consider this a balance correction." Dad sat back, speechless. Mom's voice trembled. "You've ruined this family." I met her eyes. "No, Mom. I just stopped funding it." Then I walked out, leaving behind silence and the sound of my freedom clicking shut behind me. For 3 days, no one called, not even Dad. The quiet was deafening, like the calm after a storm that still has debris hidden beneath the surface. Then early Monday morning, my phone buzzed. It was Dad. His voice was strained, tired. "Claire, your mom's losing it. Lydia's threatening to sue you for defamation. What exactly did you send to the bank?" I kept my tone even. "Only the truth, Dad. Nothing more." He sighed deeply. "You could have come to me first." "I did," I said softly. "For years. Every time you told me to just let it go. Remember?" He didn't answer. Just silence. Long, heavy, guilty silence. That afternoon, an email arrived from the fraud division. Case opened, preliminary review in progress. It felt surreal. Not victory, not revenge, just accountability finally wearing real clothes. But I didn't celebrate. I sat quietly in my apartment, watching rain slide down the window, feeling both liberated and hollow, because endings, even righteous ones, still ache. Around 8 p.m., my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, Uncle Ron. He looked apologetic. "He had to see you," he said. "Your mom's panicking. Lydia's in shock. They're saying you've turned against them." I handed him a cup of tea. "I didn't turn against them, Uncle Ron. I just stopped turning myself down so they could be comfortable." He stared at me for a long time, then nodded slowly. "You did what they never expected. You told the truth out loud." When he left, I sat alone again, but this time the silence felt peaceful. Because for the first time, my name wasn't attached to their chaos. It was attached to integrity, and that was worth every storm that followed. 2 weeks later, everything began unraveling publicly. The local bank froze my parents' joint account pending investigation. Lydia's business, the one Mom had secretly funded using my old college savings, was suddenly under audit. Word spread fast in our small community, and for once, the whispers weren't about me. They were about them. My inbox filled with quiet messages. Cousins who used to mock me for being too private now wrote, "We had no idea, Claire. You were right all along." I didn't reply to a single one. I wasn't collecting apologies. I was collecting peace. Then Dad called again. His voice was smaller, defeated. "They're saying your mother could face charges. She's not taking it well." I exhaled slowly. "I didn't want that, Dad. I just wanted accountability." He hesitated. "You sound just like your grandmother." That made me smile. "I'll take that as a compliment." That night, I opened my laptop and saw Lydia's name trending locally. Her business license revoked, her partners cutting ties. She deleted every social media profile she had. For a moment, guilt tried to sneak in, but I stopped it cold, because guilt belongs to people who did wrong, not the ones who survived it. I lit a candle by my window, the flame steady against the wind, and whispered a truth I'd waited years to say. "You taught me that love meant obedience." I finally learned it meant boundaries. I wasn't their punching bag anymore. I wasn't their ATM, their scapegoat, or their silent audience. I was simply me, unbought, unbroken, and no longer begging to belong. The SUV, the money, the secrets, all gone. But so was their control. A year later, I stood in front of my new home, one I bought entirely in my own name. No cosigners, no hidden hands, no borrowed peace. The air smelled of fresh paint and closure. Inside, everything was quiet. Not the suffocating silence of old dinners. This was the kind that hums with freedom. My phone buzzed with a message from Dad. "I heard you moved. I'm proud of you, kid. Your mom, she still doesn't understand. But I do." For the first time, his words didn't sting. They simply existed. Honest, imperfect, human. I replied, "That's enough, Dad. Thank you." Then I opened a small box I'd kept tucked away for this moment. Inside was that same manila folder, the one that had blown the family open. I placed it in the fireplace, struck a match, and watched it burn. Page by page, the past turned into smoke, not out of hatred, but release. The next day, I met Uncle Ron for coffee. He grinned as I walked in. "You look different," he said. "I feel different," I replied. "Lighter." He nodded. "You did the hard thing. You made truth louder than comfort." I smiled at that because he was right. For years, I've been told to keep the peace, to stay small, to be the good daughter. But peace built on silence isn't peace. It's prison. Now I lived on my own terms, in a house built not from inheritance, but from healing. As I stood by the window that night, city lights glowing in the distance, I whispered a quiet promise to myself. Never again will I apologize for protecting my own peace. And with that, the story ended not in revenge, but in restoration.